Yeah, I'll edit the first part where you're meandering a bit, so they won't ever hear that. So it'll just be like starting.
There's
So
so much meandering, everybody. I'm so sorry. I don't know
so
which
it's all
way I'm
good.
looking at. I'm not good with this. I don't know where the camera thing is here. Yeah.
It's fine. It's
I
fine. It's all
swear
good.
I have brain cells. It's just, technically based. I'm
Okay,
also
so
checking now. Yeah, I'm fine. It's all good. It's all good.
no one's going to be reading that, so it's okay. I'm not sure if anyone will be watching us. Never mind the books. So there's no fear.
They better be
Um,
watching me. It's in my eyeliner today. So,
so I think we'd agreed to do a podcast around culture. So I got a couple of questions, but usually, which is helpful for people watching, if you sort of introduce yourself and sort of say who you are, what you're about, what you sort of do, that kind of to give people a feel of who are you, and then we'll crack on with the
okay.
actual thing. Is that all right? So
Yeah, that sounds
who
good.
are you, Saiqa?
Who am I? Oh my God, the existential
That's not
question.
that's
That's,
that's
that's
not
not good.
that's not an existential question. That is
It is.
a purely logistical
Well,
question right now.
we
Yeah,
could
it
argue
is
about that.
genuinely. Yeah, yeah.
Logistically speaking, hi everybody, I'm Saiqa. I am. Oh, do you want age? Do you want all that jazz, or do you just want to go into what you
No, just
do?
kind of like I suppose your background and what you do.
Background is very okay. So we're doing culture, so we'll do ethnicity if that helps to a certain extent. So a background is Indian Pakistani. My ethnicity. I've lived in a few places. So amongst that, born and bred in Germany, and then travelled around a little bit before I came to England. But God, I've been in England for quite a while. Most of our family's from here. My mum's heritage. Yeah, we've got that. We've got a bit of African in us. My granddad's part African, part Tanzanian. And yes, that's my background. Work and life-wise, I've been the eternal student. I've always studied something in one way or another. I've grown up in retail, working in retail for beauty, makeup, skincare, did the whole beauty therapy thing and all that jazz, which is great. I wanted to be a little bit different, so I went into mental health a couple of years ago, started doing a psychology degree, long distance with the Open Uni, which by the way is amazing. So shout out, that we got that. They're just so good. I've always taken a few courses and stuff. I was slightly obsessed with linguistics and language structure. I still am. Different languages, how they merge, linguistic history, etymology, things like that. Absolutely obsessed. Love it. But then I decided for what I wanted to do in life, which is work with people who have mental health issues, but also cultures like my own to a certain extent, although it is getting better. That sort of don't recognize it as such. There's still a lot of toxicity around mental health in regards to things like, you shouldn't have bad mental health and it doesn't exist. Just, get yourself together and it's all these little things, which
Yeah,
aren't a little, I guess.
and I
Yeah,
think we could maybe come on to like mental health and in terms of how that intersects with culture down the line as well, in your own culture as well. It's quite an interesting one. We can get to that.
absolutely. I think it's a massive, massive, like anybody, even if you're not from my culture, can pretty much identify with half the issues that are going on within it because we, at some point, if you've ever had a mental health issue or you've been feeling down about something or anything and everything on that spectrum, you will have had somebody who said to you, "Oh, just get over it. Just be cheerful, just smile." It's little things like that, and
Just
that as a
man
culture,
up. It'll be
yeah,
fine. It's
exactly.
never fine.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that it can be fine, however, not in that way. It's, you know, I hate. I'm recognizing I've had my own toxicity regards. So we had this conversation a few days ago about where it's this thing where I found it very necessary to kind of make people feel better, like my friends, or the people that I loved, and and I go, oh, it's going to be okay, and then try to do all these little things like, oh, but think about this, and this is better, and that'll happen, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas sometimes the best thing is just sit with the pain. But that doesn't mean there isn't a positivity after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to even notice those expectations just because you're born into them, isn't it? Takes years to become. I hate using the word, but it's applied. When you become kind of woke to something, like hyper
yeah,
aware. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't actually have to do that. Who knew? It
oh,
always seems
exactly.
obvious in hindsight, but at the time, you're like, oh, why was
Yeah,
I
the
doing that?
thing is, but I think you obviously you're very you're self-aware to an amazing, like an nth degree. something that, I hope to get to at some point in my life. However, do you think that's possible though? Do you think there's certain people around that where self-awareness just is not going to happen because they don't think like that, or they're blissfully, I guess, to a certain extent, unaware of it, or never feel the need to look behind themselves or into themselves?
Yeah, for certain. I mean, whenever you interact with someone that is, fundamentally different to you, or I suppose in terms of my own like mental health and like the sort of constraints of my gender, when I meet, like formally, when I would meet other men who were able to do things that I couldn't, and you then become aware of that limitation, and then the sort of the seeds start to grow, and then you can change it. Obviously, if you're in a quite a homogenous environment where everyone's the same, then that's much more difficult, because you just accept that as like the status quo, isn't it? Which is kind of related to what we're talking about today. So actually, I think a good way to start is it's for you, and we're not attempting to like define it in any kind of meaningful way really, but just from your perspective, like what does culture even mean to you? Would you say just you?
Just me.
We don't have that level of time to do a comprehensive definition of culture.
I was going to say, how long is this recording? We have a few days. To me, culture, I suppose, I wouldn't say assigned, but a belief system of behavior, expected behavior, and attitudes and predisposed attitudes that exist within a community that I would be ascribed to by others. So, but the problem with it is what community. So, part of the Indian community, part of the Pakistani community, part of the Tanzanian community, is it mainly the Muslim community? So it's sort of,
exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at with you, because obviously someone who's I'm not in any way really religious. Really, I'm not anti-religious either. I'm kind of nothing, I suppose. But I don't know how you would separate. Like are those two are like culture and kind of like religion the same to you?
Yeah, I've been wondering that for a while now. It's meant to be, in the truest sense of the word. If you look at religions, and again, I would love to say that I'm very well read up on Islam. I'm not. So I'm not going to, these are things that are personal for me, and how I've seen them, and how
you're going to hate
them.
question 4. Let me tell you.
Oh, yay. That's going to be good. Okay, well, I look forward to that, just getting uncomfortable. However, if you look at it from what I've seen, people will go, I am insert religion, and then British, or then, I'm Italian or Pakistani or Indian or anything like that. And it's almost like a filter through, if you believe, do you know what I mean? If you are a believer. If you're an atheist, you'll, I suppose you go the other way. Like, oh yeah, I'm British, or yeah, I'm Italian, but it's a funny one, because I've been thinking.
You see, I wouldn't use that. That's what I'm, so if someone has to like define me, what is your culture? I wouldn't even mention atheism, because that's not relevant to my culture, if that makes sense.
No, it does, absolutely.
Because I don't practice anything because of that. That's just I suppose an opinion I hold. If someone's asked me to like define my culture, I would more say it's just social expectations really, and the things that we tend to like, I guess, that those vague things. Like, fair play, queuing, all those things that we just do around here, which for me is not really a religious or racial thing. It's just kind of custom for me, I think, is a better way of looking at it. Just
it's not individual, is it? Because it's all based on social interaction. It's how you expect it to be around social interaction, around other people, around your community, than you are as a singular human being, like on your own. You know what I mean? The cultures depend on social, obviously, on your social setting to a certain extent. But yeah, it's the very thing. The tag thing is what I've been not worried about, pondering over quite a bit. And I'm sure a lot of people have thought about it. Are tags are they important to us, or are they important to people who need to know how to define us?
By tag, do you mean those kind of like cultural like identifiers sort of thing? Like I am
absolutely
black, green, orange, Muslim.
Yeah.
I don't know, Mormon. whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because like, do we need that in our self-talk, in that little, stream of consciousness in our brain? Yeah, it's a funny one because I'd love to be able to have an answer and say, that's what it is, and that's great. But I think, I mean, even the greatest thinkers of our time couldn't put it down completely, and still, it was all about theoretical idealism, and it kind of came from their own perspective and their perception, and some of it changed, and some of it was kind of like, we'll continue discussing this until I'm dead, and there's no real answer. I don't think there's going to be. I think, and the thing is, even for one human being at different stages of their life, who I am and who I define myself as in regards to cultural diversity, my background, my ethnicity, has changed. I would assume, sorry, I would say every decade or so. So in my 20s, who I saw myself as was very dependent on the people that I was around. And then the same now. It's almost like that I'm more confused than I am anything else. It's that whole thing where a lot of fourth, fifth, sixth generations, even though we're kind of like British Asians is what they, identify with. But then you look at the individual cultures, sometimes you're a bit too British to be accepted as completely Asian in your culture, and then sometimes you're too Asian to be accepted as British in that culture. So
when you like think of yourself, then so do you think yourself as British, Asian, or Muslim first, or is it just all one thing?
I think it's all one thing, and the thing is, I'm not British, but I see myself as British. I mean, I wasn't born here. I've only lived here for I think 2/3 of my life, and I see this more as home than anywhere else. So I would see myself as British, and I would see myself as Asian, and I would see myself as, Pakistani and Indian and Muslim. So the only thing I wouldn't see myself as necessarily is, I suppose, Tanzanian, only because it's not something I've ever experienced. I just know from my lineage, from my heritage, that I'm a part of my heritage, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of aware of those of those tags, like you're talking about, those key identifiers. But obviously only when I'm in a group, or I'm in a group that's like contrasted with it. So like, trying to pick a good one. Okay, like I'm heterosexual. Okay, right? Or is it cisgender? I don't know. I think it's cisgender. Yeah. That's not something that I think about or is relevant to me, or I would even consider it as necessarily part of my identity. I suppose it is technically, but it's not something that, obviously, it just doesn't occur to me. I pick what, other things. But obviously, if you're in an environment where you happen to be different, then suddenly it becomes relevant again, doesn't it? And you can kind of see how it can become part of your personality, or you see it as a part of your personality if you're in a group where you're that and they're something else.
So it becomes louder. It's always at the background, but part of it becomes louder.
A lot louder.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think that I completely identify with that. Some things become louder as and when, depending on your company, on your surroundings, or what at that time. Sometimes your moods. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you just think, "Oh, I'm really pissed off with this." Oh, sorry. I mean, apologies, but yeah.
No, it's fine. Like a really funny one, right? Is, well, not that race is funny, but I mean, like, the ideas that we have around it sometimes are a bit dark. But race is not something I tend to think about, being white, obviously, because most people are white. But I can remember when I went abroad to like Malé and like the Maldives, and I went to this like capital, and I was walking around this like city kind of like complex over 100,000 people, and I was the only white person the entire time there. I never encountered like another white person, and I then immediately I was like, that cultural, that thing is suddenly more important, and I kind of got a sense of what it felt like, obviously being a minority of some form in reverse, and it's quite a interesting kind of like social experiment.
A little insight, yeah, I like that. Yeah, it you wouldn't. I think you're part of the majority. You are part of not only the majority, but you're male and white.
Sorry.
So you don't. Yeah.
Can I apologize?
I'm gonna get your badge. Just saying that.
Yes.
You're amazing. Yeah. I'm male and I'm white. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the apology. I can't take the apology for white. women, but I will keep the apology for Asian women.
Okay, that's fair.
Currently the only person that I can,
Yeah.
You're going to have to speak to somebody separately on that occasion.
It's good because it saves me apologising in future occurrences. That's good.
Just for that, just make sure you know that, good stuff. I've already apologised to one Asian woman, and quite frankly, I'm done now. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. See.
However, I like the idea of that. Just like per person, you speak out every, ethnicity and apologise, and then you can tick that off your box, kind of going, fine, I need to apologise to 43% of the world now. It's great. No, but the thing is, you wouldn't have to think about that in any way, shape, or form anyway, because you're never in a situation where, no. The only time you would think about it if you were in a negative, you wouldn't think about it in a positive. You don't sit there and think about, oh my God, it's so great, I'm currently here. And
no, it's not like everything. Oh, it's great being white, mate. Just buzzing, right? It's not like that.
Yeah.
It's completely neutral to me. Obviously, because I'm the whatever the majority. But obviously, like to you, race must be a whole different experience, right?
It's there. That's the thing. I see it. Not in a sort of, oh my God, he's that and she's that, or they're that or they're that. It's a case of sometimes the little insidious things that happen. Especially, it's not always the race cards, also the gender cards. You've got both to sort of look at. It's always that little expectation. Little comments every day from a lot of people. It'll be silly things like makeup. Oh my God, you're tired today because I have my makeup on today. But it's not something that you would ever turn around and say to, you look today,
that's
it's not something, And you wouldn't, again, in my experience, I'm not saying it to everybody else, neither have I, I've said that to people and kind of gone, oh my God, he looks tired to a guy. Because, you get more dark circles, look a bit drained, you okay? But I've never heard somebody else kind of go, oh, you're right, mate, you look a bit knackered, that kind of a thing, unless they were really hanging over. Whereas with women, it literally takes a day of no makeup, like, you're right, love, you look a bit tired. But also the fact that people find it's okay to say that to people, to women, is a big one.
I get what you're saying, like, there's obviously a whole different set of expectations that you're held to. But I'm not,
And the same thing with the Asian side of it, I feel like I have to explain myself or why I'm doing certain things. Or from other people's experiences. I have a very good friend of mine who is quite Orthodox Muslim, and she's amazing. She's very, inclusive. She's very, again, I have to say this still now. That's the funny thing. I'm saying words like people would assume they weren't inclusive.
Why?
Yes. Why do I have to say that? Yeah, it's a funny one. Again, these things kind of almost take a picture. Anyway, part of it is when you're quite Orthodox, and the same thing is in a few other Orthodox religions. I'm not going to speak for them because that's not my experience. However, shaking hands doesn't do it. Will not shake hands with people, and that's seen as impolite, and sometimes they feel the need to explain themselves, which is bizarre to me.
Yeah,
they're not given that.
I must admit, that's something I've kind of experienced too, from the point of view of like working with, obviously, like children who happen to be in like Asian communities, and kind of feeling rude for not shaking their hands.
Yeah.
And then and it's that whole like etiquette thing, like, like, am I wrong in assuming that they don't want to shake my hand, or are they assuming that I think they're rude for not shaking their hand? And it's just these clash of like unsaid meanings that's like floating around.
It's what, on the handshake thing, it's that's the gender side of it. Obviously, I've kind of come from a very different point where now in the past couple of years I've had to introduce myself to people. I'm not in an environment where I'm known, or and in very formal settings I'll introduce myself to people, and I'll reach for a handshake, and sometimes especially with men, they're quite surprised at the handshake, but then and it makes me lean in and be a bit more firm with my handshake as well. I will read a person, and there's not a single time where somebody has to be, oh, it's a firm handshake, like almost expecting it to be very gentle and nothing sort of a thing. It's bizarre. There's not been a single time when I shook somebody's hand that they haven't commented on the fact that it's a firm handshake or something around that handshake. It's bizarre. It's something to me that is a female side of it. It's almost like they've got this expectation of, what are you doing? Oh, interesting.
I'm not sure if you've come across it, but there's this idea called social scripts. So like regardless of of which like situation you sort of go into, there's kind of like there's almost just like a default setting of phrases and questions and set of like expectations, and to an extent we all have to conform to at least a measure of that, regardless of how unique and special and snowflakey that we happen to think we are.
Unique and special, yes. God damn it. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's just like I'm trying to think of example, because like no one is like exempt from it. Like we're all constrained by these tags. Even the most privileged groups can be constrained in other ways. So like obviously race is irrelevant to me because I happen to be white, but class isn't. Like class is really important to me. So I feel that as a constraint all the time. It's like in
you also feel that it yeah. Sorry, go on. I have a question at the end of that.
No, it's just like there's the obvious ones, like obviously how I'm comparing how I'm comparing myself to other people, but it's the more insidious ones, like not feeling like I'm good enough, or not spending that much money on that because it seems unnecessary, which is a very working class thing to to sort of say and think. Like like the first question is always, how much does it cost? It's very, very working class, because
the big divider, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we look down on like extravagance, I suppose, and things that are unnecessary, and all these sort of ideas are always floating around in my head, whether I'm aware of them or not. So although some groups may appear what are in certain situations privileged, they can be in other situations not so, because it's such a weird, fluid kind of thing, isn't it? I mean, I think the thing sometimes kind of like missed. It's so context dependent. There's no one is exempt from some form of constraint, depending where you are. Like if I go into like a really expensive restaurant or something like that, I will feel uncomfortable, even if I could afford every scone in that shop. I will feel uncomfortable because on some level I will feel like I don't belong in that space. Now, no one's telling me that, but clearly I've internalized something, haven't I? That's like a limitation.
There's always that little bit of almost like a flag at the back of your head that like, why am I here? What if somebody asks me why I'm here? And it's things, little things like that. I've had this with a little while ago. I had to go on a training day, and I got put in a first class seat, and I'm on the train. I just went, okay. It felt amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so exciting. I'm going to be on a first class train. And it was a good 2.5, 3-hour journey. So you'd be getting meals and stuff like that served. And initially, when I was given the ticket, I was quite excited about it. When I was there, I could not have felt more out of place. And not because there was a load of soup there, but because even there was a couple of families and stuff, but I had a massive sense of, I do not belong here. I kept checking my ticket. I was a lot younger at that time, but I kept checking my ticket.
Beautifully working class. Beautifully working class.
Just the first class, and I checked my seat twice to make sure that's the right number.
I love that. I love that. I've got a lot of time for that.
I completely understand. But it's a funny one. It's the one question I wanted to ask you was, you've obviously said how you internalized it, but do you think that it influenced a lot of the choices that you make and a lot of the ways that you present yourself, knowing that you might be in a situation or around people that bring that out in you, that bring out that
all sort of the time
side? Yeah,
that's
a funny one, isn't it?
Anyone that says it doesn't matter, they've just not been in a position where it's been contrasted. So
exactly.
If you're surrounded by working class people, that's what all this stuff is, just what everyone thinks. It's not exceptional, it's not weird, everyone thinks that way. But no, like the further I've kind of gone up, obviously, and I even don't like the phrase gone up, but like we kind of climbing the ladder in terms of success or whatever, doing a PhD and all that sort of stuff. So like the groups of people that I tend to consort with are changing, like noticeably so. And whereas before, obviously, everyone that I was friends with was working class. That isn't the case anymore, and I am mixing with these different groups. But if I go into a situation, even if I'm not being evaluated, on some level, I'll feel like I'm being evaluated because, again, it's that imposter syndrome, isn't it? Like, do I belong to be here? If you are born to that class, you assume that you're meant to be in that room. Like, why would you not be in that room? Of course, I'm in that room. Yeah, but if you've come from from different routes, like should we say, you will you have that need to prove that, and that isn't something that they've said to me. That's just something that I carry in there with me.
Nobody needs to say it though, but the problem with that is we always kind of ask questions like, well, did they say that to you, or how they make you feel that people don't have to, it's not a case of making you feel that way. It's just the fact that it's a structure that pre-exists. It predates them. It's a structure that's been put in place, and it's something that doesn't need to be said because it's there. If you look at some of the people that can go to university and do so, at the appropriate age and have a really good lifestyle and actually have the time to, even PhD students, let's do this because I'm going to go off on another tangent for the whole university. However, let's look at PhD
guys.
students. Tangents is my thing. It's a genuine problem.
I wonder if we did a podcast on tangents, whether you'd stick on tangents.
That might actually happen. That'd be amazing. I'd be on point for once. That'd be wonderful. I actually see the topic. However, so even PhDs or like, I want to go into psychology and I always want to do a few things and study more in that realm. To become a psychology assistant in certain places means it's not a lot of money, and you have to do some free work to get it, or to get some experience. You know what I mean? You have to do a lot of free work to get to that. Yeah. To be able to do so would mean I would have to have a bit of money behind me to be able to live. You know what I mean? Or move home, or do little things like that. And even in that self, there's a lot of people out there who have an amazing brain on them and just need an opportunity, and they can't afford to have that opportunity because
that's like a structural barrier for certain.
Yeah, but it exists. We don't have to necessarily talk about it, but it exists. But the same thing with elitism. When you go in there, you know that some of your mentors and some of your professors come from a very good and very privileged background, because to get to that point, you'd have to have a bit of money behind you sometimes. Not always, but quite often, the people that don't have it and make it, not that there aren't a lot of them, there'll always be a point of, oh my God, look, she came from these beginnings, or he came from that, and such a humble background, and look how amazing they've done. Almost as a case of, why are you doing so good? You're meant to be doing crap. Why are you so good at this? Why are you on the same level as us when you've had such a really horrifically bad background, or humble beginnings? Oh, I hate that word so much. Humble beginnings.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does it mean? But it's taken as a given. Like, people of my class system, of my background, will say that, oh my gosh, she came from such humble beginnings. Look how amazing she's done. Sorry, so does that mean she shouldn't? Should she have just stayed in her humble background?
It's meant to be encouraging, but it just, to me, feels like pressure. Like there's like a row of 1,000 working class people behind me going, come on, don't let us down now.
You're representing all of us, mate. Come on. Yeah.
Or you'll make us all look terrible, and then they won't let us in.
They won't let us in. That's fantastic. They had a status quo. They could only go with one white guy, slightly Viking looking, and bit of really atheist, and that's literally you've looked at 3 posters there.
You have to know your niche. Know your niche.
I can't wait for my niche to open up. There's already 2 women in front of me, so I've it's a queue system.
But the beautiful thing about all these cultural tags, which is kind of my next question, is like how people like to collect them as like a form of status.
Yeah.
There's seemingly no limit to how many of these you can incorporate into your personality, which I think is quite interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and how many you need to accrue value.
Well, yeah, because
how many social tags do you need to have value?
Here's the thing. Like, I kind of used to think it was kind of, like you were known, I suppose, like for one or two things, like a main thing. Whereas now it seems to be like quantity over quantity. Quantity over quality, should we say? Yeah. So yes. So you can be any number of, woke, awesome, conscious raising cultural tags, and you're just
what box you're ticking. Yeah, exactly. It's like in employment everywhere. What box are you ticking to make sure that you're accepted, or that you're filling in that point? Oh, okay. Well, we need somebody Asian. Ideally Pakistani, because we've got a load of Pakistani like kids that need to look after and stuff, like just a general job thing. Female, because there's a lot of girls on there, they have to be able to identify with it. Like little things like that become, and nobody will openly kind of go, oh no, this is what we need, but what they're looking for. I have been in jobs in retail, especially in beauty, where there has been quite, I'm going to say positive discrimination, but I don't know how much I agree with that term, because it isn't discrimination. but
it's quite a
actively
loaded
looking
word.
at. Yeah, they're not looking to kind of identify with the most people. Like, yes, of course, we should have somebody from every ethnicity working on a counter, because it means that people don't feel left out. There's a lot of people that won't identify with me, but they might identify with a friend who is, I don't know, Japanese and has a different way of doing her makeup and has a different approach to beauty. And that's great. But brands have looked at it, like certain brands that I've worked for have kind of gone completely the other direction. And it's quite, I don't know, I still have mixed feelings about it. Sometimes I think it's really
It's kind of
important.
like they're like collecting difference.
Yeah.
Look at our
Make sure we get the most customers. Yeah.
Look at our wide portfolio of people.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's quite, again, we're going back to the makeup thing. That's been so necessary as well in so many ways. It's almost been like, it's the only way somebody who, I mean, God, my friend's Nigerian and she's got the most beautiful mocha skin tone, but for the first 20 years of her life, she couldn't find a foundation or makeup to suit her. That might seem like a minimal thing to a lot of people who don't, I suppose, ascribe to the makeup ideal or whatever, but that in itself is excluding somebody. You're not really important to us, your skin tone doesn't really matter, so we're not going to make anything that caters to you. It's a very weird, and this is why I have a difficulty with positive discrimination, because it's a really important thing, but I don't know how I feel about it being still part of the discrimination cycle. It's more a case of we should embrace every part of it rather than a specific set. I'm not making much sense. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. But,
no, you're just trying to solve a really complicated problem in like a sentence, and surprisingly having some difficulty.
More of a dissertation sort of a thing. It's better to heal the world ill, with a dissertation.
Yeah.
Preferably a few thousand words, maybe.
Like discrimination is just a fancy word for saying, choosing, essentially. We all discriminate in many ways all the time. I discriminate in my choice of drink. Like we'll decide things in that way. It's just certain things have a moral
This is very
tint.
true. Yeah. And I'll be really honest, it's one of those things where, I mean, I've been in the hiring chair, and God, I've been part of this discussion with HR and with my area managers and my managers, and some of the discussions that fly around, you're sitting in a room and they're discussing some of these things, and you just think, I think I was part of the positive discrimination culture that you had to fill. And it's a funny one with you're not aware of your tags until other people make you aware of them. Until I was, obviously the female tag, I didn't think of it as a tag, it's just who I am. Whereas, I'd like to elaborate on the other one, but I feel like I'd be going off tangent, and there's a lot of thoughts in my head right now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's kind of like distinguishing between like the explicit forms of like discrimination and like the more insidious, implicit ones that you don't notice because they're just part of like the architecture of the world that you kind of like live in. And I think we've done a really good job of getting rid of the quite obvious explicit ones. But like how do you describe it? It's like obviously like you can't escape like where you're sitting in it. It's obviously culture changing all the time, and we'll have all manner of cultural ideas that in 20 years time will be seen as out of date and a bit quaint, and in 40 years time will be viewed as racist and downright offensive, I'm sure. So you can't ever see through the trees, as it were, these.
No, that makes sense. I think we still have a very long way to go. I know we've done really well on a lot of them as well. I think sometimes it's not just about the overarching culture. So for me, the overarching, the predominant, the main culture that I'm part of is British culture. So it's not always about the British side of it and how, people react to me being part of that. Sometimes the smaller ones that are, I think sometimes it's about like accepting the fact that you can be two things, not a mix of things. You can be two things. I don't do the whole half and half thing. I'm not
two.
half cast.
You get two.
For God's sake. I get two. Thank you very bloody much. That's the point I'm collecting. I have 2 points on my race card. If I collect 5, I think I get. I don't know what I get for a cappuccino. Yeah, but it is I don't really want a cappuccino. Do I get a free cookie? That'd be great.
Yeah, you can have a cookie.
Thank you, free cookie. Ooh, brownie.
Yeah.
So, one thing I've done quite a bit is look online on baking subscriptions. I just thought I'd slip that in there, people. Yeah, I would seriously recommend, if you need to think about culture and the more difficult things in life and intellectual discussions, order yourself some,
Well, I mean,
home brownies.
It does link in a way you would not, because culturally, the British, the British response to the apocalypse was to bake. That's all everyone does. We'll bake our way through.
Which is absolutely acceptable. And even if we don't, that just means A, it's a good way to pass your time, and it's quite, mindful. B, if we don't survive it, at least you've got, cookies until you die, I guess. Your last breath, you still have cookies / brownies with ice cream. Anyway, it's a positive thing. I mean, I'm not ready to go back to work and fit into work trousers again. But I'm kind of appreciating the jeans, leggings, sweatpants lifestyle.
Yeah,
so that's going to be good.
That's a whole other thing that we didn't even touch on. Well, not the pants, as in like the different roles that we take on depending where we are. So I imagine how you culturally present yourself is different in work than it probably is with your friend or at home.
Yeah, I think you have to. This is another thing that I find very fascinating. It's something that's come up quite a bit lately. Not in a negative way, it's just a discussion I've been having with my friends. It's the idea of fakeness. Why are you different with one person, different with another? It's fakeness and bitchiness are turned into one, which is not. It's almost like changing. No, you have to. It's situation appropriate. You're not going to go and have a nice little natter at work when you have to be professional. It's people kind of like, or have the same sort of interaction. Like the interaction that I would have with you would be very drastically different to something that I would have with somebody who I've met 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're changing or you're fake. You're just,
Yeah, it's either being authentic and yet at the same time having these separate versions of ourselves that we like present to others.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing with writing as well, because I'm trying to find my writing sound and playing around with different things, and I know my voice changes within that, and how I present that will change. Does that mean I'm being fake? I'm not being true to myself. I'm not being true to the writing style or the topic or the oh god, brain's gone today. Do apologize. Or the topic that would or the genre. There we go. The genre that I would speak to, or that I enjoy writing of. What there's a massive thing. There was a few. I think it was the Haruki Murakami in conversation with Neil Gaiman, and there was the big discussion how some writers shouldn't change genre that much, or how like you should keep to one genre within a book, because why you're trying, it's confusing or whatever else. I think that's quite applicable to a lot of things, like as a person, what you represent. It's almost like, oh, if you're going to be that, that's all you can be, it's don't deviate from that.
Yeah,
I'm fairly go on, sorry.
Well, again, it's that feeling constrained, isn't it? But that's purely internal. I mean, I think everyone kind of like struggles with that in some way. Like I definitely struggled with sort of trying to stand on my own truth and kind of be authentic way more in my 20s than my 30s. I think as you get older, you tend to get more comfortable with how you present yourself. But
what is authentic to you, though? So let's just very quickly, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but my biggest thing is, what is authentic to you? Would the authentic you be the same person in every situation?
Well, see, I think to be like a well-rounded human, that you should be adapting to different social situations. And if you're not, that's very limiting for your world, really. Like you should be able to talk to different types of people about different types of things. So I actually don't think that's quite natural. The only thing that really, I suppose, is the same, I suppose, my morals. I guess what I think is appropriate is generally the same. I suppose those little things like. Like, do I hug this person or is it just a handshake?
Yeah.
That might change, but yeah, my moral kind of criteria tends to be the same. It's just what I tend to talk about is slightly different. Or the only exception to that is maybe children, because they operate very differently to adults, I think, in a lot of ways. But
No, it makes
it's
sense.
yeah,
But
but
again, you're
it's still
adapting.
me. Yeah, I mean, it's still me. I think we worry way too much about that. Like, it's not possible, and is socially harmful to try and maintain one form in really diverse situations. It's
It's
painful.
arrogant. It's very arrogant as well to believe that that's it. That's all you need to ever be. No, you're limiting yourself, but also telling other people that's all that you are. It's
Yeah,
almost the whole handshake and hug thing is a really good example. If you truly believe in the value of other people, you will adapt yourself, because some people are really uncomfortable with hugs, and why should you force a hug on them because you do to everybody? That's not fair on them. That's not
yeah,
acceptable or
and
responsible.
there's
Yeah.
there's the idea of, well, within kind of like social interaction, the idea of like mirroring. So, so
Yeah.
if you're talking to someone, and you're interested and you're enjoying what they're talking about, you will tend to use, like, your like vocabularies will tend to align up more than they would normally, and you'll tend to do similar, like, body expressions, and like, language, the way you sit and things like that. That's a
Yeah.
good thing. That's kind of how we tell that it's going well, and that person
Yeah.
likes us, and we're enjoying this conversation. We're meant to do that. Like, if you're rigid and you're exactly the same in every situation, it would be stale, just
Yeah,
creepy.
but that's how other people read you. Yeah, oh God, creepy is definitely a word for that. But it's also how other people read you. It's the best way of interacting with them is to kind of inclinations to say, I'm enjoying this, or this is not great to me. Body language is very much part of that, and you would have to change it. You would have to adapt it quite a bit. But one thing is, though, I do find, I think it's a quirk of mine. I'm calling it a quirk, not a weird thing anymore. So this is personal growth, people.
Progress, good for you.
Thank you, very proud. However, it's a weird linguistic quirk that my accent will change within a sentence sometimes. And I find that it's becoming more adapted to certain situations and certain conversations. When I used to work on a mental health ward, it changed a lot, because we had different accents. We had inpatients from all parts of the country, as well as my colleagues and things like that, and sometimes it would change by the hour. Like, and if I was sitting with a patient for an hour's observation, I could see, like, sometimes I could start seeing, and they would make me aware of that quite quickly as well. Oh, your accent's a bit weird today, or you sound more Irish today, or if you sound more German, like really random. Like, I got Scouse the other day, which I was a bit surprised at, but okay. It's And people will react very differently to that. Sometimes people stop listening to what I'm saying and listen to how I'm saying it. You can see that sort of glazing over. But again, I think it's part of that, because I think if you come from a certain background, and weirdly enough, now if you're privileged and you speak very RP English, very posh English, so we say, for layman's terms, people will drop it. People will change, and people will adapt and become a bit more, easier and looser with the linguistic aspect of that to kind of fit in. Whereas quite often you won't see somebody who's got a heavy duty Cockney, Scouse, whatever accent to try and posh it up anymore. That does not happen as much anymore, which is quite nice, really, which is a wonderful thing to
Yeah,
hear and see.
you can get like a language penalty, or like a
Oh,
language buffer, like, depending on the situation. So, like,
but
if
that's
I
again,
sorry, Karen, you
yeah,
go.
but it's to relate. No, exactly, but that's to relate. People no longer feel the need to kind of bring something down, like, in order to fit in anymore. It's almost a case of, well, this is me and I'm happy with it. So again, we're not really being fake, but it's, oh yeah, that was my point of that. There we go. Again, I'm so sorry, watchers / listeners.
It was a good point. I loved it. We all enjoyed it, and believe it or not,
It's very kind.
we've been going for like 45 minutes, which is usually the time I sort of stop.
Nice.
Yeah,
Excellent. Yeah.
and you
We
didn't
managed to get
meander. We got through the questions. I thought,
oh, not Meander thing. Hayao Miyazaki. It wasn't Haruki Murakami in conversation with Neil Gaiman. Hayao Miyazaki. There we go. Sorry.
I'm so glad you said that, because I would have been inundated with complaints.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, my brain kind of went, that's not, I've been bothering me for the past 10 minutes, and I'm so sorry. They're not interchangeable people, okay, people? I'm not making that point. I'm just saying I love them both, and I got them mixed up, and yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on. It's been really enjoyable. I will stop recording now, and we can carry on chatting. But for all them, it's over.
Bye, people. Bye.